Hi everyone, this is going to be a short presentation on creating PowerPoint template for use in rounds and to a lesser extent in creating electronic posters. Now I think PowerPoint templates are a massive productivity tool. I think they are an exercise in the general philosophy of being productive and in project management because they allow you to plan ahead by creating a design and layout complete with fonts and colors that you may not ever find the need to change again. So think about never having to resize your images because they match up at certain margins and you're not messing around with colors or fonts or themes. It's already done for the rest of your residency or career if you wish. Once you create the look and layout you like, you can save this as a POTX file, then load it every time you create a PowerPoint presentation. I not only think this will lead to time savings in the future, but more importantly, it can let you focus on creating your lecture for content and not waste any mental energy about playing around with margins and designs and themes. Now the first step in doing this is creating your own color design. To do this I would click Design, click over here, down arrow, and go to Colors. Of course you can use any of the presets that Office already offers, but in case you are curious on how to create your own, you can click Customize Colors. This is generally the sort of black on yellow or yellow on black is what I prefer, and then I prefer to use a variety of shades of blue. Then you can name it as something you'll recognize, and that saves it as that. The next step I'd go to is fonts, and this is about choosing the main two fonts that you'd use. You can again go to Customize Fonts, choose the fonts you'd prefer. I like using Arial Black and then Arial. Arial Black is a nice, bold, big font that's common and will be found installed on a variety of PCs, so you'll never have to worry about compatibility issues. Those would be what I would choose for the fonts. Now that we have chosen the colors and fonts we prefer to have in our PowerPoint presentation, we will move on to Slide Master. To do this, we will go View, Slide Master. Along the left-hand side, there are a number of layout slides. If you scroll to the very beginning, this is known as the parent slide. It is the biggest slide, and everything you change on this slide will affect the other slides. There are a number of things that I like altering here. The first thing I like doing is viewing the grid, ruler, and guidelines. Now, ruler is already here. If you go to View, you can turn all of these on. Now I can move a guideline by clicking and dragging, and I can create a new one by holding Control and dragging it over. So I'm going to do this for the margins, and you'll see the finished product in a moment. And here are my finished guidelines. These will help me set up the rest of the presentation fairly quickly. Normally the PowerPoints I give are delivered on a TV screen, hence I have given myself very narrow margins along the side. Also, using some simple math and the ruler measurements, I figured out the exact center between this guideline and this guideline, as well as between this guideline and this guideline, and you'll see why this is going to come in handy a little later. Next up, I'm going to start moving some of the placeholders around. First up, looking at the title bar, I like to make that as big as possible, and I'm also going to play around with the font size to ensure the title bar will allow up to 2 lines. Realistically, I doubt I'll ever need 2 lines, but I'm just giving you food for thought here. And that's pretty good there. As well, I like having the text aligned with the bottom. Just a personal preference of mine. Moving on, I maximize my multi-content holder using the guidelines I've set up. PowerPoint kind of snaps it into place there for me. I will change the bullets. I just like different bullets. Some of you may be wanting to delete some of the smaller fonts here, but I don't recommend that. If you delete the 5th level, for instance, and you happen to use it once in your presentation, PowerPoint will revert to its normal formatting and give you all sorts of sizes. The 5th level may be larger than the 2nd level, so I recommend you leave them all the same. You could get really anal and start choosing different spacing. It's not something I'm going to worry about. Moving on down below, I do like deleting the slide number as well as the date. I find them redundant and unnecessary to have on slides. I try to aim to minimize cognitive overload on my presentations. I do, however, keep the footer. I may or may not use the footer, but in case I want to reference any content in my slide, I do like keeping the footer, keeping it italicized, and keeping it justified to the far right of the screen. So now we have our basic template. The parent slide has the layout and is fully formatted. We have content placeholder with fonts and colors. The background and design are finished. We have placeholders including the title and the content holder, and they're aligned where we need them to be. If, for example, you wanted to place a memorial logo here, you could do that on the parent slide, and it would show up in the exact same place on all subsequent slides. Now, in terms of a lecture, I think that is overkill. You might consider doing it if you were doing an electronic poster at a conference, perhaps. You could want the MUN logo on every slide then, but I believe it is unnecessary to have for an actual oral lecture. Moving on to the child layouts, I'm now going to go through a couple, including the title slide and the divider slide, including several types of image slides and image and text slides. Focusing on the title slide or master slide, I've already made some edits here, including I have moved the date up to the center. I figure that's worth keeping. I've kept my footer as is, and I've deleted slide number because I see no need in keeping the slide number there. Now, this title slide is where you might want to have your logo visible, or you might want to change the color of this rectangle just to change things up a bit. So, as an example, if I get a copy of this logo, something like that, and that'll now only appear on the master title slide whenever I choose to insert it. Now, a divider slide is a slide that can be used to break your PowerPoint into sections if you need it. The look of it could be similar to your title slide if you wish, although I don't see any need for a logo. You may want to choose a background color for the rectangle, for instance. While the divider slide can be used to break up your PowerPoint into sections, another type of divider slide that I use frequently is a simple stop sign. Frequently in my lectures or presentations, I will present a history or a case and have some images and then have a stop sign shortly after that. So instead of copying and pasting such a slide or repeatedly looking for stop signs every time I'm doing it, I can right-click here, insert layout. All I need is a blank. I happen to have an image here ready to go. Look for some free public domain clip art, and I can even rename it. And now I have my own custom-made divider slide as needed. I don't even need the title bar, to be honest with you. Next up, I'm going to create several slides with picture placeholders. I'm going to create one that contains a single square image, one that contains 2 images, one that contains multiple images, and one that contains image with text content as well. And I'm going to show you how great it is to create these up front. Insert layout, and for this one I'm just going to do a simple picture placeholder. If I want it maximized on this, I have my grid lines here to help me. That's a 2 image. I know they're perfectly equal. I've already did the math, so to speak, and I know that these will be perfectly positioned. A different type of image could include I should say different type of layout could include sure this looks rather painstaking, but if you'll bear with me, you'll see the power of doing this up front. Okay, that's two types of image slides that I've created. And now to show you why I use picture placeholders when I can, I'm going to close Master View, and I've already created 2 slides here. You can just click New Slide and pick from your layouts as need be. Now when I choose to import images, they will be placed in each of the picture placeholder in the order in which I laid each placeholder in the first place. So if I choose these 4 images, I find PowerPoint does a very good job of placing them with reasonable crops and margins, and they're all situated just perfectly. And if I choose to do a different slide with different images, they will also be placed in the exact same layout. Another benefit of using these, if I were to drop 2 images and I want to focus on a certain aspect of that image, if I click the crop, it shows the dots outlining the margins of the original image, and it shows the crop margins. If I focus on the dots to make the image bigger, but drag the image as to where I want it cropped, notice I don't have to play around with margins or resizing the image or anything like that. It's the size I want it to be. Voila. This is why I find picture placeholder so useful. Now when I create my own picture placeholders in the template design, I will create multiple ones. 1 image, 2 image, 3 image, up to 7 images, because I find it so useful and I use it frequently in my job. All that's left to do now is to save this as an actual template. Note that we are in Slide Master and everything is as it should be. I've deleted all the original slides. I don't want any slides saved in this PowerPoint. I will go File, Save, this PC. I do not save it as an actual PowerPoint file, but as a POTX file. Once I do that, PowerPoint will choose the appropriate folder to save it in. Then I'll name it. And now, whenever I click New, Personal, you will find any of your templates you've created under here. And that finishes the tutorial.